Hello. Hey guys, my name is Catherine. This is my first video ever, so I'm gonna be super nervous and awkward. Please do not judge me. I'm just here to talk about the books that I liked. Don't judge me. These are all the books I read in 2019. I gave all of them 5 stars. These are amazing books. These are going to be in no specific order because they're all perfect and they're all unique. There is a non-fiction, horror, mystery thriller, spiritual books, historical fiction, all kind of stuff. So these are just my top 6 books of 2019. Okay, so the first book is The Girl on the Train by Paul Hawkins. I've heard about this book throughout the entire booktube from so many people, and they either love it or hate it or don't really care about it. So I hope I obviously loved it. If you guys don't know, you're following the unlikable character that has drinking problems, and she's going on the train every day and she sees that something's going on in the house she's passing and there's some conflicts going on, so she's just out of boredom, I guess, and it has nothing to do. She's trying to like investigate and see what happens. As well, it follows a few other perspectives. I'm not gonna tell you more because it's a mystery thriller. You really want to go into it without knowing anything, but I really like the characters, and people say that they don't like this unlikable drinking problem woman, but I think she was really well written. I love characters that are not perfect and they have flaws, and she has grown so much in this book, honestly, and it's not about the character growth at all, but I just really love how the characters were written. I couldn't predict the twist and the end of the book, and you know, who's the murder killer or whatever, and it was just really nice, and the ending was just like, it's left me hanging there. It left me there just being so amazed of how everything turned out. I just love this book so much, and it's pretty much my favorite mystery thriller of the entire year. I highly recommend, if you haven't picked it up, you consider doing it, you know? So the next book I read and I loved is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I think this book has been popular in the booktube like a few years ago, but I mean, I got around reading it only this year and I absolutely loved it. This is a historical fiction that follows 2 teenagers, Werner and Mary Lore. Werner is a German boy who lives in an orphanage, and it's kind of like his story of getting out of this orphanage and going to the academy and just being so obsessed with the radios and being so good and figuring and fixing them. And Mary Lore lives with her father in France, and she is a blind girl who is kind of like, her family gets affected by the war. It's about them going through their difficulties, and I thought it was written so beautifully. I love historical fictions. I love reading about this World War II types of settings, and this was just such beautiful written books. Like, the Anthony Doerr writes in such a unique and profound way that makes you like hook up on the story, and the chapters are fairly short. They're like 2-3 pages, so you just like keep going and keep going. And even though it's a pretty like big book, it's like over 500 pages, I still like, it took me like a week to read it because it was just like so good and nice, and the story was honestly great. It's a sad book, I'm not gonna lie, but if you guys like literal fiction or historical fiction, I highly recommend. It gave me all the feels in the world, and that's 5 stars, obviously. I actually really want to read more by Anthony Doerr, so I'm trying to get to it as soon as I can. So the next 2 books, I read both in 2019, but only one of them made it to my top 6. And this book's written by my favorite author of all time, and it's The 5 People You Meet in Heaven and The Next Person You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. If you don't know, because BookTube doesn't know who Mitch Albom is, he's the author who writes nonfiction or novels that are based on true stories. This first book was based on the story that his uncle told him about his vision of heaven, and he kind of interpreted that story into his own and made a sequel. So the sequel actually made to my top 6. This book was a reread for me. Mitch Albom takes a really special place in my heart. He's the author who got me into the reading. I'm actually gonna do a separate video about Mitch Albom and the guide to Mitch Albom and all about all the books of Mitch Albom because I love him so much. But this story, the first book, is about the guy named Eddie who dies in the first chapter, which is great. It's him going to heaven and meeting 5 people that either he affected in his lifetime or they affected him in some way. He learns about his life more and what it meant and what he did and what it played in somebody else's life. His books make me cry and laugh and then cry again. He writes really believable characters. Even though The Next Person You Meet in Heaven only made to my top 6, but I would say this book would not be there without this book. There were so many connections. There was the bringing up, the bringing back the story that was here, and it was just so nostalgic for me because I actually read this book for the first time in like 2015. I love Mitch Albom, please read him, it's really good. The next awesome book I read in 2019 is by the author I have like mixed relationship with, and this is The Pet Cemetery by Stephen King. I read three others of his books and this one is totally the best. I probably should not even tell you what this book is about because everyone watched the movie, everyone read the book, it's well known, well loved by me as well. When I just finished this book, I was really contradicted because I didn't know to give it a 1 star or 5 stars. And I know it sounds weird, and I do not feel this way about many books, but this one was a really unique case. This book is horribly amazing. It made me feel so bad, so uncomfortable, the way I've never felt before, and after I read it, I just wanted to throw it out of the window and give it 1 star. But then I thought, this book is supposed to be horror, and it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, and by that standard, this book made an amazing job. It just brought out all the emotions and feelings that I didn't know I had. It was ugly, it was really, really ugly. I cannot say I loved the experience, but the more I think about this story, the more I understand that this is truly a 5 star. I really appreciated that this book was not typical horror. This book is scary because it could be a real life scenario, and many people, I feel like, who read this and put themselves in the position of the main character. But I love this book so much, I cannot recommend it enough. Please, if you love Stephen King, I mean, what are you doing? Read this. The next 2 books I put on this list and kind of in the same position because it's really, really short. And this is We Should All Be Feminists and Dear Igioeli, or Feminist Manifesto and 15 Suggestions. There you go. These are both like short essays. Like, this is the book, it's like 40 pages there or something. And they're short essays about feminism, and both of them I cannot stop thinking about. These are so informative and thought-provoking and really clear statements of feminism and her points and her opinions, and I 100% agree with every single point she made in both of those books. I picked this book up because I was just really interested why everybody's going crazy about it, and it was a really short read and I thought I might as well try it, and I loved it. I'm really interested in reading full novels by Chimamanda. And lastly, we have a book that I put as my #1 out of all of them, but honestly all of them could be on the #1, but I kind of just had to, because why not? This book I really hope to like, and I'm so glad, like, I just didn't like it, I loved it. And this book is Bird Box by Josh Malerman. It was a great ride, honestly. Am I so awkward? There is a book, there is a film on Netflix, like, do one of those. Give yourself a favor, familiarize yourself with the story, because it's just so unique and great, and I loved it. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, but the ending was... I agree. I honestly agree that the ending is not exactly what I expected, but the best thing about this book is the writing. I honestly would not love the film as much as the book because the writing is what brought the story so vividly in my mind. Because they were not able to see outside, but she had to go outside blindfolded. Instead of the author describing what is around her, he wrote what she felt and what she heard and what she, seized with her perception of the world without seeing it. So he didn't describe pretty much nothing unless they were in a house. But it was so unique and so wonderful, and I could really feel and hear everything she could because he did an excellent job doing that, and I loved it. I honestly recommend this book so much over the movie, even though the movie, it was still really great, but I recommend the book so much more because it's such a different experience, by the way. And I'm gonna go against myself, but in this book there's a French blind girl, but even though Anthony Doerr was an amazing writer and he brought the story greatly, what I hoped he would do is the same he did here, that he would not describe what was around her, but instead what she felt and heard and smelled and all kind of stuff. Even though he didn't do that, because not everyone got hit with a great idea to do that, it still was a great book. But this was just me. This one just was such incredible new experience, and I loved that part of reading it. So, well, I'm done. There were 6 books that I really loved in 2018. I'm hoping to be making videos every week. I don't know how that will go. Probably shouldn't even say that because but I really want to say thank you for watching, and you have a great day.